Good morning. Uh, Today I'm going to do a short solo play of the Eldritch Tales solo rules, the OSR Cosmic Horror solo role playing. It's a snappy title. Uh, these are the second book in my Lovecraft challenge. Now, what I have done is I've created the character in advance. This is Donald. Um, and I used the optional rule which is in the book that says you know, roll 4d6 and drop the lowest. As a solo character, it bumps your stats up a little bit, um, making the character slightly more functional. I got two good rolls on here of strength and constitution, which both come in at +1. Nothing else has got a bonus, but it did save me from picking up a couple of penalties. Donald is the profession of combatant, but he's a private investigator who I can imagine being ex-British Army. 8 hit points. That's another optional rule in there. Maximum hit points at first level, which for combatant is a D6 +1 with +1 for Constitution. His remaining money is £29. Level 1, he gets no experience bonus. I'm class 10, no armor. No basic attack bonus apart from the +1 from his strength. Um, New character, so sanity is 0, mythos law is 0. I'm applying the optional rule to have his maximum sanity as int plus whiz. Um, the reason I'm doing that is in a party of adventurers, different characters could be doing different things. The combatants could be losing sanity from encountering monsters up close, whereas the more academic characters might be losing their sanity from reading books. A solo character has to take that full burden, all of the mythos lore, all of the sanity loss from encounters are all on the one character. So giving them using the optional rule to make them a bit more resilient to insanity keeps the character functional for a bit longer. Gear, I've literally just listed the most basic here for a private investigator. That's a revolver with 6 bullets in it. He has a box of bullets, a folding pocket camera, 2 films, a pair of handcuffs, lockpicks, and binoculars. So all of that was created beforehand. Um, Now I used, if I just scroll this down a couple of pages, a little plot hook generator. Now it's 1d6 3 times, and I came up with an artist informant talks of Carcosa. Um, Now the Carcosa is associated with the Keepers of the Yellow Sign, which is a cult, who are themselves opposed to the Mi-Go. The Carcosa is also linked to the Court of the Yellow King, who's also known as the Faceless God or the Unnameable because of the power of his true name. Now, these are associated with night beasts. The Keepers of the Yellow Sign are known for summoning night beasts, and they are opposed to the Mi-Go. So these are the um, Lovecraftian horrors which are most likely to be encounters. Then you've got cultists and cult leaders who these are specific NPC stats in the Eldritch Tales core book. And the first scene was going to be meeting an artist, which would um, tie back into this hook here, where an artist friend of Donald's, he has heard something sort of on the grapevine. The game today is set in London, and which is why his cash is in pounds and not dollars. It's set in London, and in meeting the artist. Now, the artist name, I'm using Fantasy Name Generator to generate random names, and I'm using their random British names. And the artist is called Ewan Carter. So he's our first NPC, and Ewan says he telling Donald that he's heard that there is some kind of gang fight planned under one of the bridges of the Thames, and he heard this from one of his models, and he thought that Donald would be interested, and this relates back to a previous case of Donald is investigating a disappearance and in a possible gangland killing or some kind of gang involvement, which is why this artist, Ewan Carter, thought that Don might be interested. And the artist thinks that the gang are called the Yellow Gang, something along those lines. He didn't hear the exact details, and so they Donald's and Ewan, they carry on their friendly meeting, coffee at Lloyd's, that sort of thing, and then they go their separate ways. Now, Donald then he goes home, prepares his gear. That this fight's meant to take place this evening, so he prepares himself to go to this the New London Bridge, of course, the one that opens and over the Thames. So he prepares to go. He has his camera there, trying to take some photos, and he takes up a position on the embankment and waits for the allotted time for the gang fight. Now, off screen, which you can't see, I've got my dice roller, and I'm going to ask, does the fight actually happen? Oops, sorry. And I'm rolling a single d6 because all of the feats in Eldritch Tales are based on a d6 roll high, and I've rolled a 4. Now, the 4, I'm going to say it's likely that this is going to take place. So a 4 on a likely question is a +1, and so I go. Rolled a 4, it's got +1, it's a 5. Yes, the fight takes place. Yes, and I'm going to make a note of the actual dice rolls of 4. That comes in, which is important later. So who turns up? Oh, well, what I'm picturing is a dark night that it's under a big bridge. London Bridge is um, a big structure, and it's dark. I can imagine some shadowy figures appearing, and so there's this movement down there, and then they start to dig rather than fight, which seems a bit odd. And they're digging away at the bank, the mud in the banks of the Thames, and they uncover a door. Um, big, uh, yeah, just for your information, this is the bridge. This is the London Bridge, and it's a big spanning, uh, great big spans, and it goes right over the banks with these dark areas, underneath. So these cultists aren't haven't they haven't met another gang. They're digging in the mud, and they pull open um, these big doors, and they disappear inside, under the banks of the Thames, under the embankment, and that seems a bit odd. So I try and move in a bit closer and see, can I overhear anything, as I get closer? Well, first of all, am I actually can I get there without being observed? Now I'm going to do a dexterity feat to move quietly, and I've rolled a 5. My success is 5 to 6. So yes, Donald sneaks up, getting closer to where this activity is, to try and get a better idea of what they're after. And I'm going to try and overhear what these cultists are talking about, and doing another uh, feat, this time on intelligence, to try and hear. And I don't hear anything. They've been quiet. Um, they're working, and they pull open these doors, and they file uh, the into this passageway under the Thames. And yeah, you can't really not follow them. And that would be rude, wouldn't it? So as the last one goes in, Donald, he drops down into off the embankment on uh, into the actual sort of edge of the river, the foreshore of the river, and I he tries to look inside this tunnel, and fortunately, these cultists are carrying electric torches. They show a kind of yellow, eerie light in this obviously constructed tunnel. It's not natural at all, but it isn't shored up the way that a normal tunnel be. There's no wooden beams. It's, if anything, there's these kind of shaped, metallic angle braces, probably what we would recognise as sort of CNC machined metal braces, unlike anything he's seen before. And the walls are smooth, and the lights reflecting, and so he starts to follow. And we're extending on a little bit further. Can Donald hear any signs of the cultists up ahead? Is there any conversation or anything? I'm going to make an oracle check on that one, and it comes back with a 5, which is a yes. Now, can I hear the cultists and where they are going? I rolled a 5. Now, the reason I'm recording the number is 2 consecutive rolls the same on a oracle question indicates a plot twist. So every time I ask a question, that was also a yes, because it was a 50-50 question. There was no modifier on it. Every time I do that, I'm just going to record the number, and if I get 2 the same on the roll, not the actual result, then that indicates a plot twist has taken place. So I can hear them up ahead. I'm going to see if I can hear what they're talking about. Now, there's a little conversation tracker here, and I'm going to roll a d6, and it comes up with a 5 again. And the cultist I can hear seems to be agreeing with something. I can't hear the other side of the conversation, but he's obviously they're I think they've come across some kind of barrier inside, and they're coming up with a plan. And the cultists are all in agreement. And the next thing I hear is rushing feet. They're coming towards me. The cultists are heading backwards. So I'm going to try and get out of there as fast as I can. Can I keep ahead of the cultists? No, I don't. So I've just rolled an agility feat to see if I can outrun the cultists. So I'm making my way back out towards the foreshore of the Thames. And in the passageway behind me, one of the cultists rounds the corner and shouts, well, actually, he just tells me to get out of here, run. And there's, let's see, there's 2d6 worth of cultists, and there's four of them behind me. Four cultists fleeing the tunnel. And I run ahead of them, trying to, I don't want to be caught. I don't really want to have to answer any questions. At this point, I could just say I saw lights or something. The cultists rush out of the tunnel and throw themselves on the ground. And a second later, there's a thumping boom and rolling smoke and bits of debris come shooting out of this tunnel. They'd obviously set some kind of explosive. They set some dynamite in there. So that was the I think so. There was explode. Oops, typing's terrible today. Explosion in the tunnel. It shakes the bank, and a shockwave goes across the water. It's a real thumping, great thing. And the cultists take one look at me. They're wearing masks. The whole sort of bandit look. Black scarf over the bottom halves of their faces. And they take one look at me, and one of them waves a gun at me and tells me to run. And I take the hint, and I hear them running away in the opposite direction. So now I should really have said that this is scene 2. The gang fight on the Thames. And that ends my scene. So scene 3. Now I'm thinking Donald just goes home. He's it's not going to be safe to go into a tunnel that's just been blown up. It'd be interesting to see what the police make of it. The Metropolitan Police. You know, this won't have gone unnoticed. So scene 3 is um, the morning after, and so at this point, my theory is that this is Donald's theory is that there was some kind of, maybe it was a smuggling operation, and this gang has tried to um, wreck that smuggling operation, maybe an illegal gin distillery down there, and they've blown it up. So the theory is about a turf war, um, gin distillery. Uh, so that's the theory. For me, I think that there is a Migo nest under the City of London. Now, I am putting these here. Just stick some little stars on there to make them stand out. These I will use to really as role-playing prompts. So Donald is going to think he's investigating these. Now, at the moment, that seems to be the most likely Lovecraftian creature. This is what I could be fighting, or encountering, or being driven away by. I might not be right. It might be that the story goes in a completely different direction. Uh, so, it's solo rules wise. You've seen the uh, yes no oracle. There's nothing really new there. Um, Now, I'm going to consider this the lead from my artist friend here as the first clue, and that has been in finding the cultist. I have found the first clue, which is this turf war. Now, in this these solo rules, there is a little mechanic that when you find a uh, clue, you roll on this word track. Now, I'm just going to roll. It's a 1d6, and I'm going to count along, and I get a 1. Gibbering. Um, so I'm on the first word of the word track, and I am going to just add that in. Now, this word is purely for flavour, and by that I mean there's some big words in here: Dagon, Kadeth, Necronomicon. Now, just because it says Necronomicon doesn't mean you found the book. But what it means is in the following, not the following, from this point on, I'm going to try and work in these words and or hints or clues, suggestions into the story. It part of it is to make sure that the stories as they grow maintain an element of the Cthulhu mythos. Now that implies to me either a gibberish moon, which is a state of the moon, or someone, some kind of insanity, nervous, nervous breakdown, and so I can probably work that in with an NPC or something. But with each clue, you roll a d6 and count along that many words. Now, I use the same mechanic in the Ashen Stars solo rules. They're very, very good for keeping the theme um, continuous. Actually, funny enough, there's give us there for that's the moon, state of the moon. This is literally going to be. I'm going to actually add that in. Must break down just to keep me kind of on topic really. So I'm going to play out one more scene. And in this scene, it's the following morning, and Donald heads back to the same place on the embankment, and there are some police investigating this unearthed tunnel, and it's in a worse state than I imagine it. It is literally collapsed, and Donald asks the policeman, what happened here, and he replies that it was a gas explosion. Some gas must have built up in. Is thought to have built up in one of the sewers running under beside the Thames here, and caused a gas explosion, which vented out through the side of the bank here. But they're concerned because it runs alongside the foundations of the bridge, and they're going to have to bring out engineers. So I'm just making notes of that. Suspected sewer gas explosion. Engineers called to inspect. Inspect the bridge. Now this is not what I was expecting at all. I was expecting some kind of getting the army in to look at explosives or that sort of thing. And again, going back to the Migo, they have a tendency to hide their tracks, and so I'm thinking this fits in with the Migo hiding tracks, abandon nest. I don't know if Migo live in nests. I imagine they live in nests. So this is a pity. In a way, I was hoping to be able to gather more clues here and maybe get a look inside the tunnel, but the tunnel's collapsed. So it looks like my investigation is going to have to follow the cultists. Now, if you've been running around in the mud of the Thames, you're likely to be muddy. The Thames is not a clean river. So leaving the police, heading away, I look to see if I can find any sign of their footprints in the river mud. And I roll a 6. So yes, I've successfully tried to find the footprints of the running cultists. So I can finding footprints, cultists, and they run along the foreshore and then up onto the road, and there they stop beside the road. They possibly got into a motor car. Getaway car was waiting for them, and possible dead end here. So I look around. Was there anybody around that's so I'm going to ask an oracle question. Was there maybe a homeless person that was or a beachcomber on the front of the or, beside the river? And I roll my d6. I think it's likely, and I get a 6, which is a yes and. So was there? Is there anyone around to question? Yes, and that was a 6. So it's still not a double with the answer that came before. And I'm following these muddy footprints, and I'm looking there, and this rough voice behind me says, "Here, Governor, are you looking for that car?" That was a terrible accent, I know. Sorry, I apologise to anyone that had to put up with that. And I turn around, and there's a homeless gentleman there. He's unshaven and cold and things. And I say, why yes. Can you tell me anything about it? And he looks like he might, and I give him a few shillings. A shilling being equivalent of 5 cents to Americans, 5p to the British. And so I give him a few coins, and he takes me. He said, "Oh, it was a black Austin, which is and he said after that thumping noise last night, it was uh, they jumped into the car and head off towards Oxford Street, a big thoroughfare in London, and he points at a lamppost, and he says they hit that when they didn't make the corner." And true enough, there's a lamppost that's it's a bit of an angle. Is of it's obviously been clipped by this car, and on the ground there is a part of the number plate and some glass from the headlamps. So partial plate and broken glass, and so even shards of paint from the car. Now I've given myself these details because it was a yes and. So yes is the kind of the best possible answer you can get. And what's more, I rolled a 6 and I had a +1 on that as well. It was likely, so that was actually a 7, so it's even better if you like. Now with these, Donald should be able to head to some of the garages. Has anyone come in with a car that's had a bit of an accident, bit of a bump, it's broken a headlamp, or if it hasn't, that narrows down the number of cars it could possibly be. the partial plate, he might be able to reach out to a contact. Now, Donald could have a up to 4 assistants, and he in the character creation you're supposed to create contacts for your character. I've left these undefined because I thought they would come out in play. Now I've already decided one of them is an artist. Um, as a private investigator and combatant, I get more contacts. So I'm going to create a friend in the police. And so I could actually use something with the partial plate. And I think I've probably gathered everything I can here. Now, the partial plate is another clue. So this is where that the track comes down. And again, I'm going to go back to the word track, and we were on gibbering, and I'm going to roll my d6, and it comes up 3, 1, 2, 3, demonic. So I've got my clue here, and I'm going to add that in. And so I've got 2. I've got gibbering, which I haven't used yet, and I've got demonic. And I can work these in later. But for now, I am going to leave Donald. So scene 4 will be interview with his police contact. Now, I will, when I do the scene, I will create a NPC, and using my English name generator again, I'm going to Walter James. So the police contact is called Walter James. Now, your contacts are part of your character. So and my artist contact was Ewan Carter. So adding these in here means that they are now going to be consistent. I can bring those characters back into the story. And this is that my journal here of the adventure. It doesn't make good reading, but it's enough for me later on to quickly reread this. I can spot my clues. I can see my oracle questions and the NPCs as I'm creating them, and I can carry on my investigation and try and work in more of the prompts as it goes. So at the moment, my game mastering side is definitely coming down on the idea of their Amigo in London. I've got some cultists which I can deal with now. I'm on the trail of those, so I'm more likely to encounter them. But this is, for now, there is nothing really odd or unexplained going on. This is a mundane investigation which Donald is more than capable of carrying out. So that was kind of roughly how these rules are going to work. It's 1d6, but here sort of you would roll 1d6 3 times or 3d6. Now for my dice roller, if I bring it on screen a second, I was using multicolored dice. So you anything that was a feat is the black one. So when I roll them, I know what as long as I call the color first. When I was rolling the three colors, I used a left to right. So for that would have been occultist, ancestor, um, Atlantis if I was using this. So the 2, 1, 2 left to right would mean that you know, as a very first plot hook and the start of an adventure, um, so if I'd used downtime, then Donald would maybe have discovered that he has an ancestor that was involved in a cult, supposedly from Atlantis, and that would be the starting point. Um, I was using the black die for the Oracle, so I could always spot which one it was. Um, so it's not the world's best dice roller, but there's nothing really wrong with it. Um, the solo rules, I had them on screen um, so you could see them. They actually work better on paper, where I was having to scroll up and down. But that little table there, I actually know it off by heart. I didn't really need to use it. If we had rolled a plot twist, if I'd rolled the same number twice for, if we say blue is die 1 and green is die 2, rolling a plot twist 3 and 5, an organization changes the goal. Now, um, at the moment, my goal as such is to try and find this cult. That could easily have been come up and say when I have my meeting with uh, what was he called? Walter James, was it? Where's my contact gone? Walter James. He could easily turn around and tell me, you know, don't get involved with this gang. And I have this inkling in the background of that Donald is investigating a missing person. Um, I could be told that okay, the gang I'm investigating under the bridge is nothing to do with that other gang, and it could completely shift. Saying look, you're on the wrong track. Don't get involved, which would be the police changing my goal of moving me away from the course of the Yellow King, no, the Keepers of the Yellow Sign. That was the first reaction. So that's the plot twist. There is also if I come up with if I wanted a complex question, I didn't ask any this time, but if I'd wanted to know, if I'd managed to overhear what the cultists were talking about, again, I could have rolled on here and say using the blue green, getting 5 and 2, um, and that would be creating a foe or a traitor, and that would have fitted in. And they're trying to start a war with this cultist, the one that was agreeing. But when I overheard him the first time, could have been saying that they're trying to create a foe. They're trying to break into this Migo nest and start a war. That is how this would work, and how you would use it. So much of the answer comes from the context. As it was, it seemed natural to me that what they were going to be talking about. just that agreeing was enough to, muffled voices in a tunnel. The next tool here was the conversation tracker where he was agreeing. It's all I needed to hear at that point. Um, you've seen the plot hook, and you've seen the word track. So we're now on the demonic. If with the next clue, um, I would roll the black die again, and it would come to Irem, which is the lost city in, say, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and that could you can work that in either as the actual location of the lost city of pillars, or um, it could be that if I get a look of someone, they could be of sort of North African descent, Arabian descent, Middle East, um, or it could be the script on a scroll. It's just adding a little bit more flavor in it, and eventually I would bring in some of these, start to use them, and they will color the adventure. Um, so I'm going to leave it there because I don't really want to start rolling on too many of these tables and start metagaming. Yeah, I would rather actually play out these little scenes, um, and follow Donald's adventures as we go. But these are the tools in the book. They are based upon my other OSR book, but obviously the all the mythos lore is uh, unique. The word track is unique. Um, most of the bit that makes this a Eldritch Tales solo rule is all the lore from the Eldritch Tales. There's another bit in here about. Now, I didn't need to use it this time. There's something called the Oncoming Horror, which is about. It's about tracking different sort of external events. And just because your investigation is taking you towards the goal, the oncoming horror brings the goal to you. Um, so, yes, we didn't get to use that bit yet, um, but it's something that comes in slightly later in your investigations, um, and yeah, it's just lots of these dark forces really do not want you to discover anything about them, and they will try to act against you. Um, I've forgotten the name of the story, but there's the Lovecraft story about the Migo. Um, the first, there's this sort of record of the Migo sounds, and the Migo are trying to get that recording, and that would be the first time that they try to act against the professor in the story. That would be the first time that the oncoming horror came into play. The second time it came up is when they started to become more proactive. When it comes up again, there's a meeting with the Migo where they have the face and the hands. They've literally sort of skinned and scalped the old man, and they're trying to convince um, the protagonist in the story to leave. There's the brain jars. All these kind of with each iteration of the oncoming horror when it comes up, the interaction becomes stronger, it can get more dangerous, or you get deeper and deeper into the mythos side of it. Um, and I didn't need to use the counters and dice pools. Um, so there's much more in here than there is in the OSR rules, but they are more tied in to the cosmic horror side of the story. But that's it. That's it for today. I better save that. This is Donald. Um, who was he? He was Donald. Oops, hang on. Donald Kimberly Burgess, named after the spies. Kim Philby, Guy Burgess. I forgot McLean's name. I don't want to save it in the downloads folder. Really, I'll stick it in there. And that's it. Um, this is the second set of Lovecraftian solo rules. Uh, I am starting. Well, I started last night to write some for the actual Call of Cthulhu. The big one, which I'll put in the Miskatonic library. Um, these are using the compatibility for Eldritch Tales. Yeah, so that's it. And yeah, if you play Eldritch Tales and you want to play it solo, these rules will make it work for you.